Sounds great. Uh, could we, before I get into that, could we pull up that District 15 map?
Yeah, let's do that.
District 15 used to not go into Marion County at all, but now it does just a little sliver. And so I thought it would be good to, yep, we can see it.
Okay.
It'd be good to highlight where we're at here. So what you can see is kind of the main road there is the I-5 corridor heading north to south there. And how the district has expanded above the Santiam River, but it cuts off a lot of the populated areas just south of Salem. So we've got the Ankeny area. It cuts right through the middle of some populated areas there at the very north end, but then it kind of meanders through countryside off to the west before it hits the river and heads back down. So I do have a little sliver of Marion County in District 15, but of course, whatever happens in any district matters to everyone in the state. And so I'm glad that I get the chance to chat with you today.
All right. So I'm going to go back to this, give you the screen, let you take off.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep. So my name is Ben Watts, and I was born here in Albany, and I've lived here my whole life, with the exception of 5 years that I was in the Army. I joined the Army in January of 2001, right after I graduated from Lynn Benton Community College, and that was just a few months before some events changed what my time in the military would be. And so I joined to be an Arabic linguist, and so I was in the middle of language training for Arabic when somebody ran into one of the restrooms when I was showering and shouted that a plane just ran into one of the towers. I usually don't go into this, but it seems appropriate given the date and timing. My roommate, he was from New York, and his mother worked at the North Twin Tower, and he couldn't get in touch with her, and he said it's her day off, but she works on her days off frequently, and the phone systems were just swamped. And so sorry, a little tangent there, but everybody's probably got that story about 9/11, remember exactly what they were doing when they learned it, but that hit home for me. That was just a guy from Albany, but I knew some people that had family in the mix. Luckily, later that day, he was able to get in touch with her, and she did indeed take her day off. And so that was good for him. And he was very emotional about it. And I got to be a comfort to him during that time. And that was meaningful for me, and I hope it was meaningful for him. Sorry, but I spent 5 years in the Army, and I did spend one of those years in Iraq. And despite having language training, they decided they needed people to do computer and UAV work more than they needed Arabic linguists. And so I spent 2 years learning Arabic and deployed to an Arabic-speaking country and did something else entirely. But it gave me a lot of skill sets that I was able to use when I moved back here. I also met my wife, Pam, when I was in the Army. And so when I left the military, we talked about where we were going to make our life. And I love Albany, and I guess that rubbed off on her. And so this is where we moved back to. And I was able to get a job using some of those information technology skills that I learned at Samaritan Health Services. I started on their help desk, but within a year, I had been promoted into management, and I stayed a manager in the IT department for just over 10 years. And I got to be involved with budgets and with people management. And those were great formative years for me. I learned a lot. I also feel like I got to have a real positive impact on things that were happening in our community. Because a lot of the efforts that happened with our hospital system here in the Mid-Willamette Valley, I was very much involved with. And so despite the fact my name's not on anything anywhere, I can look at a lot of like the construction that's happened here in Albany or in Corvallis or Lebanon and say, you know, I had a little piece of that.
Mhm.
I can remember that. But I have, my wife and I had two children, William and Penelope, that are going to school here in Albany now. William's going to Calapooya, and that's the middle school that I went to. And so that's pretty cool. I hadn't been back there since I was a kid. And so now going in there, it looks just the same, except smaller. Um, and so I also left Samaritan in 2017. My GI Bill was about to run out, and it was kind of a, am I going to use it or am I not? And so I decided I was going to make a leap, and we went ahead and were able to make a budget that allowed me to go back to school. And so I did, and I got my bachelor's degree in English. And I graduated in late 2019, and that was just before the pandemic hit. And so I hadn't gotten a job yet, and that was very lucky because we had our finances in a place that I was able to transition to being a stay-at-home dad as William and Penelope needed to start doing schooling remotely. Mm. And so so during that time, I really became very aware of what was going on with their classes. I got to just listen in on classes almost every day. And just based on the excellent teaching that was going on, but the hardships that teachers were enduring and students were enduring during that time, I felt like I wanted to get involved more. And I joined the budget committee for our local school board. And that was just before the makeup of the school board changed. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what happened to the school board here in Albany, but some of you may be aware that a new school board was elected. 3 of the 5 members were elected, and they leaned conservative, and they fired the school board superintendent right away. And one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved was because there's great inequity in our schools here in Albany, around the state, and I wanted to do my part to just try to aid in making things more equitable. And I felt like the superintendent and the district were making great strides in that direction. And so when all of this happened, I was very worried about what might happen in terms of those equity efforts. And well, we haven't seen some things that they were able to accomplish clawed back. We also haven't seen the emphasis on equity that we might have seen if things hadn't changed. And so it's a little disappointing, but it's not as bad as I was worrying about either. And so, but that leads us to today. I am still a stay-at-home dad, except now campaigning is very much a full-time job. And it's exciting to be able to meet a lot of the folks that are involved with the school district and just administering what's going on here in town and around the state. And so during that time, since I was getting really concerned about the physical and social environment that we're leaving behind for our kids, I really had this question about, what do I want to do next? Is just phone banking for the next candidate good enough, and donating? And ultimately, I felt like that was where I felt like I needed to step up. And it was a big step for me to make that decision, as I'm sure anybody that's considering making a leap into politics for kind of the first time. The school board budget committee is political, but this is a whole different category. But also during that process, it really helps you hone the things that you want to do and the things that you want to change. And so I think that considering doing it is really beneficial for just about anybody, to just gives forces you to go into like a clarity of action that you want to accomplish. And so so I started with 5 things that I wanted to accomplish. And of course, bringing the number of things that you want to do from the million things that you want to improve to a short number. And I'm told that 3 is the ideal number, but I couldn't parse out any of these. And I've actually had to add one, which I'll explain in a minute. But we have 1 in 7 children in Oregon suffer from food insecurity. And I think that we need to do better for our kids. We've seen programs during the pandemic administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture that we're able to just give food to children in schools across the country. I'd like to reinstate that here in Oregon. I'd also like to expand it to make those meals available for children that aren't attending public schools for any reason. Maybe they're homeschooled, or maybe they're remote and can't get to school frequently. And yes, I saw your hand up go.
Yeah, Joyce, were you just giving me the high sign for the 10 minutes?
Exactly.
Okay. I was just getting the signal. So we're going to move. We're going to start to catch up, but we're really trying to keep this.
Sure.
Kind of
I rambled a bit too long.
No, you're good. But I do want to open it up to questions from the audience. Audience members, here you go.
I see Lee with his hand up.
Yeah, well, my first question, Ben, would be, what are the 4 other things, if you can say it quickly, that are your priorities?
Okay, I'll go through them really quickly. So these all have long answers. These will not be the long answers. I want to increase renewable energy production in the state to a significant degree. I think there's a lot of reasons that we want to do that. One of them is very much related to a question that was asked earlier. I want to increase the amount of housing that we have available across the state as well. And we have to do that intentionally. I very much agree with RJ's answer about building up, not out. And there's a lot of reasons that we want to do that, because when you sprawl, along with going into the long answer, I'm sorry, but it might be worth it. When you sprawl, it doesn't just maybe cross those boundaries that we have set, and we don't want to do that. It also causes us to need to possibly put in more infrastructure and support services like fire departments and police departments. When we build up, we can kind of avoid those additional costs as well. I also want to increase the minimum wage. And so if we can tackle housing and food crises from these 2 different perspectives, getting people more money for the hard work that they're doing and making these things more available to families, I think that we can tackle those things. The 5th one is homelessness, and I want to focus on homeless veterans. And I think by doing that, we can get a groundswell of support for that, and also along the way build a model that we can expand to the greater community of unhoused Oregonians. And there is a 6th, and it's reproductive care. When I built this list, I didn't know that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned, and so I felt strongly the need to add that we need not only to protect the rights that we still have here in Oregon, but to expand access to those rights across the state. Hope that was a brief enough answer.
No, that was good. Okay, so now some other questions from the audience. Well, while we're waiting for other hands to go up, you were on RJ's call, so you heard me ask about the emissions. Do you think we should have a climate tax, an emissions tax?
I think we should. I think that we all breathe the air, and so if anybody owns the air, we all own it equally together. And so when a party that's making money from polluting the air that we breathe, I think that they owe us a share. I think that that's maybe a business perspective of it, but also it's just the right thing to do for our climate.
I totally agree. Thank you.
I have a question. It's Aileen.
Hi, Aileen.
Hi. Thank you for your answer about the land use planning. And also, how do you feel about these mega horrible chicken farm factories that they want to put? And I think they want to put one in Linn County. I'm not sure.
They do. Linn County is kind of where this battle's being had. And it's not within District 15. It's in with District 11, but I'm very close with the candidate who's running there, and I'm very aware of this issue. And I eat meat, and so you have to start with that, and then say, so what are the things that make this acceptable or unacceptable? And I think that what they're doing there is going to be very polluting. They're going to be enormous structures with enormous amounts of chickens. They're going to create a lot of ammonia. And I worry about how that's going to be handled, because it's very close to waterways as well. And while the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, is doing their reviews, I've also heard from them that they are very limited in how they can approach it, because the places where they're going are identified for like industrial agricultural use. And so I think that those laws need to be tightened and clarified.
Okay.
And so, I'm sorry?
Oh, I just said good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Marianne, can we get your question kind of quickly? And we just got a message here about Jamie's timing, and we're going to lose her again in a little bit, which is unfortunate. Marianne, can you pose your question pretty quickly, and we'll try to go for a short answer with Ben?
Okay, Ben, where do you stand on healthcare for all Oregon?
I am very supportive of healthcare for all, 100%.
Yeah. And having been at Samaritan, you've got a good background in understanding healthcare and healthcare administration and all the moving parts. Ben and I have crossed paths at Samaritan over the years when I was in a different part of the system at the time. So with that, Ben, I hate to cut you off, but we are going to try to kind of switch this real quickly so we can get some Jamie time. Feel free to stay with us if you like to hear more. And with that,